Hello Saxo fans, episode 69! Whee! Right, okay, this is a big episode, or it's going to be a big episode when I actually pull my finger out and get some work done. But what we're going to be doing here is taking the gearbox out. Now, I'm not going to focus on the actual gearbox removal process, but I think we've seen that before. So I'm not going to focus on that, but we're going to focus on the reason why I'm taking the gearbox out. So before we get into that, let's take the gearbox out. See you in a second. Winner, winner. Right then, Saxo fans, so I bet you're wondering, why have I taken the gearbox, clutch and flywheel out again? Well, I am changing the clutch. There's no long way of saying it. It's got to happen. Now, I've written some numbers down here just to run you through the plan, but the plan is to basically change the clutch among some other stuff, which we'll get to in a minute. So, just to remind you then, my old clutch was 184mm. It was a twin plate made by Citroen and was absolutely fine. It had a release pressure, so the actual springs on the clutch plate, it was about £400. I think they're an orange, or a white spring, something like that. They're the lightest one they did. And it was rated for 400 pounds-feet of torque. Bear in mind, I make 300, so it had 25% headroom, so that was all good. The problems that I had with that clutch were twofold. It rattled, being a twin plate, they rattle anyway, so yeah, and it just seemed like reasonably, a reasonable bad problem. I didn't really like the rattle, basically. And the worst of the two problems, and because this is a road car, obviously you are pulling in and out of traffic and stuff like that and pulling away. And because the clutch was unsprung, it did not like pulling away, didn't like slip. And it sort of judders the whole car when you're pulling away. And yeah, from a drivability point of view, that's horrible. So I am going to change it for a 200mm clutch. The idea being slightly longer leverage on the fingers will give you a slightly better pedal feel. So 200mm clutch means I'm going to have to change the flywheel, hence why I took the flywheel off. We'll come back to this number in a sec. So the new clutch is rated to about 380-ish pound-foot torque. It's a helix clutch that I'm going to go for, and of course it's a single plate, so no rattle, and it'll be sprung, so hopefully the normal sort of pull away stuff will be a lot smoother. But there is a problem, and that's down to this number here. So this is again the release pressure of the clutch. So how much pressure you've got to put on the forks of the spring, the clutch plate, to release the clutch. And on the single plate, it's nearly double. It's 790 pounds of pressure, which is biblical. I mean, that on the pedal would feel absolutely horrendous. And that is the only downside I can see. I see no downsides to go into a single plate clutch, 200mm helix, other than the release pressure. And that is not something I'm going to be able to live with. So what are we going to do about it? Well, let me show you some stuff. Right, so that release pressure of the new clutch, £790, is not something I am going to be able to live with. That's horrendous. Well, little caveat, if none of this stuff works, I'll probably have to live with it. So I will just put that in there now. Anyway, so what I have bought is a Willwood pull type slave cylinder, so therefore I am going hydraulic. Now then, people who traditionally go hydraulic will do it for a pedal box, which looks a little bit something like this. So here you have your clutch pedal on a pedal box, like a Willwood one, or there's other brands, which is connected to a master cylinder. That master cylinder pushes the fluid through down to the gearbox where your slave would be mounted, which is this. So that's your traditional setup, but here's what I'm going to do slightly different. So rather than mounting a pedal box in the car, which I don't want to do, I am going to fit a master cylinder, again, another little Willwood item, directly on top of the gearbox, and I'm going to actuate it using the cable. So my standard clutch pedal and the cable will come through the car completely as normal. It will come to my bracket here that I've got currently sitting on top of the gearbox, which actuates the normal clutch lever, and I will make the cable push this lever or the piston in. So essentially I am going to be running the same type of setup as a pedal box in that, you know, the pedal drives a master cylinder, but mine's just going to be connected via a cable. So basically I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have a go. Everybody who I've spoke to about this says you're just massively overcomplicating it, but I don't think they really understand what I'm trying to get to with this car. And yeah, drivability and usability are absolute top of the tree. So that's roughly what I'm going to do. Hopefully my drawing is satisfactory. Anyway, so let's have a little look at the gearbox to see how we can turn the cable pull motion into push. Okay, so this is my Satchell mech, just to remind you how this works. Cable comes through here, gets clamped here, on and off the pedal, moves that up and down, which moves the clutch arm. Nice and easy. So the plan is this, super briefly then, because I think we need to crack on with actually doing something. I am going to make up a bracket which mounts the slave down here somewhere, which will activate the clutch fork as it does in the same way, just hydraulically. That's probably the easier part of the job. The tricky part is converting this push motion master cylinder from a pull motion cable. So the plan is this. I'm going to mount this over here somewhere as close as possible to this bracket as possible. When you move the clutch pedal and move the cable in and out, this will be joined to here, and obviously it will push the piston in and out. Jobs are good. So that's the plan. So it's just a case of making up a few brackets and yeah, seeing where it needs to go, how much travel it's got and all that kind of stuff. So I'll figure that out. We'll make up a little bracket and we'll probably just tack it on to here to begin with, because like I say, if none of this works, I still want to use the original cable setup as my fallback. So let's make a little bracket and bolt her on and see if this actually will work. Right, after a bit of drilling, and I've cut that out of the big plate, we have got a plate which obviously fits over there, and we'll clamp that on. Jobs are good. And this is 4mm steel, and it's the same thickness of steel I think that's used on the current bracket, so yeah, it should be strong enough. Last bit to do is just put a little bend on here, and I'm just going to have a little experiment to see how much bend to put in. Obviously it will sort of dictate how far forward or backwards this sits. This has got quite a lot of play in that piston shaft there. You can move that up or down. So hopefully, yeah, we'll have a guesstimate and we'll see how it goes. Right, brackets in position. You'll have to forgive my slightly pikey setup for bending stuff, but I have done this before and it does work. Okay, we'll go with that, see what it looks like. Can always do more. Yeah, I might just go a bit more straight off the bat. There we go, jobs are good, and let's offer it up. Right, next up is to make this little piece, which will slot into the original part of the Satchell mech like that. And obviously I can weld this into place, and then I'll have a 90 that essentially extends off here over there to hook onto the actual threaded piece of the master cylinder. So let's make this little piece. I've already marked it on the steel and I've cut my little groove. Just need to angle grind out or cut out the actual material itself. So let's go do that. And as if by magic, jobs are good. There we go, that slots in nicely. I've left it intentionally tight so I don't have to keep taping it in place, but obviously I need to strip all the paint off this to weld it on anyway. So right, the next thing then is to make the vertical piece that will allow this to attach to it. And then I'm going to put like a little end plank on, a bit like this here, on the end just to reinforce it as well. So yeah, and I'll weld all of this little bit together and then do the weld onto here at the very end. So let's make that little vertical piece there. Right then, holes drilled. Jobs are good, nice little countersink on it. Added a few more just for added lightness. So yeah, I'm going to weld this up now. Well, just going to tack it in the corners, and then I can obviously then start actuating the master cylinder without it all falling apart. So let's just tack these together. Okay, there we go. So just tacked a little sort of strengthening rib on that side. Obviously it's all just tacked together at the moment, but this will sit somewhere. If I just take this nut off quickly, this will sit somewhere roughly about there. It's on a bit of an angle at the moment because there's a bit of a weld on the side of this existing piece, which I need to just grind down flat. But you can see that obviously once this is in fact, let's try it. Once this is in place, obviously it's all just a bit loose at the moment, but basically once that's in, the general motion is achieved. That's the plan anyway. Right, so what I need to do is take this piece off, just flatten down this little weld on here, and take the paint off, probably just bead blast this whole little panel. And then, yeah, we can tack this piece to it, and hopefully then we're pretty much there. I'm not going to do the full weld up now, because if I have to take this off, I'd rather not take all the welds back. So I'm just going to tack it in a few sort of tactical places. So if I have to take it off, then it should be relatively straightforward. But we're getting there, I think. It's looking all right. Right, blasted off most of the paint. It's powder coat, so obviously it's a bit stubborn to come off, but yeah, I've done it in all the areas I need it to. So I think it's in its final position there. I think I'm just going to tack it in place here rather than attempt to try and mark it up and move it onto my bench. So I'll tack it there, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this is going to work. Right then, that is all on. Again, still a bit warm. This is loose, this is relatively loose, but as a functional test, imagine I am a cable. Job's a good one. Seems to be working. So there's not a lot more I can do here until we've done a functional test in the car. There's a couple of other jobs I need to do at the top end. This bracket here will need to be welded to the main bracket. As you can see, yeah, essentially in here where I'm pointing with my welding rod, all of that will get welded together to make it one piece. And obviously, like I say, fully weld that. But I don't want to do any of that until essentially we've proven the concept works in the car. And like I say, the beauty of all this is if none of this works, I can essentially take the master cylinder off and just run it in the cable setup as I had before. So yeah, there's no detrimental sort of, I'm not destroying parts here. So I'm really pleased with that. So the next thing is obviously start working on some of the stuff down here to get the slave mounted. And yeah, that's going to be a bit of a head scratcher, I think. Let's have a bit of a think about what I'm going to do. Right, join me at Sam's. Sam's car here will feature on the channel at some point, but obviously right now he's doing a full rework on it. Say hello, Sam.
Hi guys.
Sam is going to be boxed down today, this evening, so we're just going to talk about briefly what we need to do. Right, Sam, so what do we need to take out of here first?
Right, so first we're going to take the diff housing off, bottom engine mount, and also the speedo housing mount. There's a seal on here, so we have to be careful with this. That all comes out, the diff comes out. Diff has the crown wheel mounted to it, and that's these. We've got an option of 2 dependent on the bearing that's fitted, so there is a change in the 2 types of bearing depth. We've got a 4.27 and a 4.29, I believe, between the two. Maybe the other way. Yeah,
I'll pop some ratios on the screen in a minute. But basically, this is what we're going to go to. Either one of these two, and the ratios will obviously change our gear speeds, which I'll show you in a sec. So, the reason why we've got to change, we'll change the crown wheels. We also need to change the main drive gear. Is that what you call that?
Yeah, that's the main pinion.
Yeah. Okay. So where does that sit in all of that lot?
This is a gear set that's built up. This is for another guy called Jack Norris, who's building a high power NA build for a B4 conversion. So here we've got 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st. This one's reversed as an idler gear. And then you've got 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st. Now this is your drive gear and this is the input shaft here.
And all of this lot here, we're going to take out of my gearbox now so we can swap these.
Yeah, we won't touch this. We won't touch the input shaft. That can stay complete. However, it will need to come out of the gearbox. But this will come out. We'll have to unstack this, potentially change the bearing over to another type, put the new circlip back in, and then restack back up.
So it's no 5-minute job just to swap these over. Obviously, changing the crown wheel is very quick, but obviously changing this is not.
Yeah, it's probably around a 2 to 3 hour job.
Cool. All right. Well, we best get cracking then. Let's do it.
Let's get to it.
Right, as you saw, the gear set's come out and it's in excellent condition, would you say, Sam?
Yeah, it's very nice,
Well,
very clean.
Given that you only rebuilt this 300 and some odd miles ago, it's to be expected that it's all good. Cool. Right, next then. Right, so pulling off that gear set there has revealed that we have the splined shaft here as opposed to the non-spline shaft, which will change the type that we can use. So we're essentially forced into using this one that Sam's got here already. And the gear ratio of this, or final drive ratio, is 4.29. We were at a 3.95 before. So I'll say I'll stick some gear ratios on in a bit. But yeah, we've now decided this is the one we're going to use. Oh, there we go then. Sam has very kindly rebuilt the whole box. So the end cap's just on in place now just to protect things. Obviously it's going to get moved around a little bit, but this is going to get replaced with a really nice billet item which we've got at home wrapped up. So we'll swap that just before it's going to go on the car. So jobs are good, and thank you very much, Sam. Sam's car we will feature on the channel at some point when it's obviously back together. Sam's doing a bit of a rebuild on it at the moment, but when it all is all back together, we'll do a bit of a day on it. I think, Sam, we'll film some stuff and
yeah, we'll link up.
Yeah, we'll make it look good. Cool. All right. Well, back to the garage. Right, we're back from Sam's. We're back in the garage. I've put everything back onto where we were before. So I've come up with a little bit of a plan on how to mount the slave cylinder. So what I have got is some 8mm stainless bar. I think this is the same bar that I used to maybe mount my intercooler from underneath. I can't remember now, whatever. Anyway, I've got some left over. So the plan is I'm going to make a plate that goes from between, I'm going to change this for a studded nut, same as this one, and I'm going to make a plate that will essentially just follow the curve of the gearbox. And then I'm going to weld a little tab onto the end of here, and this will sit something like, you know, that sort of angle, and will be supported from the top. I will also do another one equivalent from the bottom there. So that means it'll be bolted in 4 positions, there, and supported top and bottom at the rose joint. And given that all the load is in this direction, I feel like actually having it pushing and pulling along a stainless rod is going to be really strong, rather than sort of mounted off here where it could move side to side. So I feel like that's the best option. So I think the first step really is to make a couple of little curved plates that will sit on there and just follow the contour of the gearbox, and then obviously I can just weld in this pretty easily. So yeah, let's do those first. Right, I have made 3 things. So first one is a little bracket on there, just sort of curves with a gearbox, nice and easy. Second one is just this little bracket here. I've actually got 2 of these, and this is what's going to bolt through the rose joint, and there'll be another one either side and obviously sandwiched. And then this bar here, which I've put a little 90-degree bend in, will sit there, weld that to there, something like that. And obviously I'm going to double this up and turn it all upside down and do it from the 2 positions underneath. So this will be sort of, yeah, you'll see 2 of these. But I'm at a point now where I've got too much to hold. I need to sort of tack some bits into place. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to start with this bar onto there first. Right, there we go. I've cut it to length. Put a nice little chamfer on the end of there so it's not too sharp. I'll just pop this all in loose so you get the idea. So that one under there, nut and bolt underneath. I don't have the nuts for here right now, so I'm going to have to hold it. But there we go. That is roughly in the right position. There's adjustment in the rose joint. There's adjustment in the rod. Of this rod can physically go in and out of the slave. And then I've obviously got threaded adjustment on here. So that's, I feel like with the adjustment that I've got, I should be able to get it in the right position. So the next thing is to essentially repeat this again for the 2 positions underneath to support it from under here. So yeah, all of this will be duplicated but sort of mirror image basically, and hopefully then it will be nice and sturdy. And of course I need to buy my nuts for on here, which I will get. So I'll come back in a second when I've made the other one. Okay, so I had a bit of a revision. Top one, essentially I turned this round because with it coming out down here I just couldn't get to this bolt. It was such a pain. So that's now been revised. Other than that, it's the same. I have made the bottom one. So again, I can get to those bolts down here. Just made up obviously that little plate up into there, jobs are good. So that all needs welding. The other thing I need to do is just brace it in this direction because there is a bit of flex in it. So I've created a studded nut here that goes onto one of these sunken cap heads. So I just sort of welded on a little fixing onto the top of that, so that means I've got a bit of thread to fix to. So yeah, I'll make a little bit of there, and then maybe I'll put some strengthening little bits in here, what do they call them, gussets. Probably put a couple of little gussets in there just to really strengthen it up. Should be good to go then. So, but the first thing I'm going to do is weld all of what I've done up properly now, just to make sure that fits, because that's like the base of it. Right, we're all welded up then, and I have made the third leg. You can see it's just a little support there. Generic rectangle bracket right now. I'll shape that a little bit nicer in a moment when I take it off. Just need to weld the underside of it under there, and then she's good to go. But what I'll do now is I'll pop you in the stand and show you it actuating. So you'll have to obviously imagine that the clutch pedal has been depressed, fluid is flying its way into here and actuating the slave. So yeah, job's a good one. So there is adjustment in the slave in many ways. So if I just back this off, I can extend the slave that way quite a lot. I can't go that way, but I did set it up to a point where it's like you wouldn't really want it to go that way because it's already maxed out. This is rough. I mean, this is bottomed out on the back of the gearbox bell housing and it's just about a third of the way in. So I've got scope to go either way on that. So yeah, job's a good one really. The next thing is to sort out getting fluid transfer. So I've ordered some bits and they will be here just in a moment. Right, fluid fittings then. So the components come with a couple of adapters in already. Essentially these would allow you to fit like solid brake lines to them, or like, you know, copper line, which is fine and I could do that, but obviously for me the slave down here moves in and out, so I can't have a rigid line, so I don't want to use those. So I bought an adapter which converts the 3/8 24 thread to an AN3 or a -3 line. So that'll go in there, and then from there obviously I can just run a really nice little AN3 or -3, I never know what to call them, -3 line. And I have got loads of AN3 line left over from when I did my brake lines, so that's handy. And then down here at the master cylinder, sorry, the slave cylinder, I can't remember for the life of me what thread that is. A 3/8 16th maybe, something like that. I don't know, I can't remember. But it's a tapered thread, so I'll need to put some Loctite or something on it to seal it in there. And obviously that goes to an AN3 fitting as well. So should be pretty straightforward. Just got to make the right size line. I'm going to P-clip on here somewhere, I think. Just need to open up these holes because they're not big enough. And then obviously the line will be fixed up there, here, and obviously be able to flex there. So let's quickly knock up a little bit of line, fix all these into place properly. Job's a good one. Right, one line made up, all ready to go in. Job's a good one. So yeah, let's slot it in. I've already tightened this one up already, so that's good to go. Just a question of bolting this down. Right then, Saxo fans, there we go. She is all bolted up and tight. Job's a good one. So if I now need to take this system off, I probably wouldn't disconnect the line. What I would do is take the slave off with the line and disconnect the master cylinder and essentially keep all the fluid part together. That's probably the easiest way to do it. So for that reason, I'm not going to put any fluid in right now. I'm going to leave it there for today. I think we've come quite a long way in this particular video. Hopefully you like what we've come up with. Obviously still a bit of work to do, but I'm still waiting for the clutch and flywheel and stuff to turn up. I've been told my clutch is ready, but the flywheel is not. So obviously we've got to fill this hole. So yeah, for now we're going to leave it there. Hopefully, I mean, I really hope this works. I mean, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. It's all now down to sort of pedal ratios and if I've got enough cable movement and setup and fluid filling and everything. My only concern, and I'll say this now, other than none of this actually working, is if I've got enough room down here to the power steering pump, which is going to be very tight. But I know I can move the power steering pump if I need to. So yeah, we'll cross that bridge in the next video. So in the next one, obviously we're going to be fitting this. I'll show you all the new clutch and flywheel setup and hopefully we'll get this in. I know I haven't sealed this on yet. We'll do that in a bit. So yeah, still a few little bits to do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed filming this one. it's been a good episode for me. I like doing a little bit of fabrication. So yeah, okay, next one then, clutch and flywheel, and hopefully we'll have a drive, back when the car is taxed as well for the first time this year. Right, see you again next time.